Good morning, I'm Gretchen Hall. We're coming to you live this Tuesday, the 10th day of June, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. As the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte looms, tensions erupt in the Senate as lawmakers clash over timing and constitutional interpretation. Senate President Chis Escudero also called out the House of Representatives for moving slowly, pointing out that the Senate should not be rushed. Senator Francis Tolentino has suggested starting the impeachment proceedings on June 11, with a final decision by June 30 to align with the end of the 19th Congress. But House Prosecutor Rog Gutierrez dismisses the timeline, stating that 2 days won't allow for a full presentation of evidence and that the 7 articles must remain intact. And in weather, the low-pressure area near Luzon has developed into a tropical depression but has moved outside the Philippine area of responsibility. While it will not impact the country, the southwest monsoon or habagat will continue to bring occasional rains. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. Ahead of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte, tensions flared inside the upper chamber as senators clashed over timing and constitutional language. Here is the full story.
I, Francis Chis G. Escudero,
solemnly swear
that in all things appertaining to
the
trial of the impeachment of
Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte,
now pending,
I will do impartial justice according to the Constitution
and laws of the Philippines.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Senate President Chis Escudero has formally taken his oath as the presiding officer for the Senate impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
After the oath-taking of the senator judges, the court will be constituted but not convened yet, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Duly noted.
The oath-taking followed hours of intense debate among senators on whether to immediately convene as an impeachment court.
I most respectfully move, number one, that our legislative business be suspended. Number two, that we already convene as the impeachment court at this very moment.
His argument centered on a constitutional term forthwith, with Minority Leader Coco Pimentel and Senator Risa Hontiveros insisting it meant the trial should begin without delay. Pimentel filed a motion to convene the Senate immediately.
Hindi po mahirap intindihin ang utos sa sino mang tapat ang intensyong sundin ito. Ang paglilitis ay dapat agarang simulan nang walang pag-iwas o iba pang pagpapaliban.
According to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, forthwith means without any delay or without interval of time. The Filipino translation for forthwith is agad, madali, bigla, dagli, o kara-karaka.
However, other senators, including Alan Peter Cayetano, questioned that interpretation.
I disagree na sa Tagalog agad-agad ang forthwith. Ang forthwith yung ibig sabihin nun sa Tagalog is yan na yung susunod, yan na yung gagawin mo. Oo, immediate yung agad-agad. Hindi ako expert sa linguistics pero medyo hindi agad ang Tagalog ng forthwith.
Senators Ronald Bato de la Rosa and Robin Padilla back Escudero, saying due process must be respected and there was no deliberate delay.
1 month ago pa, pinagawan muna kami ng robe, Mr. President. Kasi excited na tayo na sumuot ng robe para to form the impeachment court.
Hindi po ako abogado. Ako po ay madalas akusado. Ako po ay ex-convict. Kaya ako po ay sanay sa korte. Kailangan dumaan po tayo sa due process. Hindi po tayo pwedeng palundag-lundag.
Senator Raffy Tulfo attempted to break the impasse by proposing a vote.
Naalata ko kanina pa tayo back and forth, para nag-aaway na tayo dito. To solve the impasse siguro, we'll have to put it in a vote, whether to convene today or tomorrow. Somehow we have to convene come what may. Magbutuhan na lang tayo para matapos na.
Meanwhile, Escudero criticized the House of Representatives for moving slowly, pointing out that the Senate should not be rushed.
immediately nga ng House, hindi yun ang interpretasyon. Tapos tayo ganyan. If the prosecutors themselves, the complainants themselves were not that interested and sat on these complaints for over 2 months, tayo bigla ngayon, mamadaliin nila habang nagpabanjing-banjing sila ng mahigit 2 buwan sa mababang kapulungan.
Despite the heated exchanges, the senators agreed to officially convene as an impeachment court on June 11.
Senate President Cheese Escudero pushed back against calls for the Senate to immediately begin the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. In his privileged speech during Monday's session, Escudero emphasized that forthwith should not be taken to mean agad-agad or instant action. He argued that the term is elastic and should be interpreted based on context and procedure. Escudero also noted the discrepancy between how the House of Representatives and the Senate interpreted similar terms, pointing out that the lower chamber took over 2 months before forwarding the articles to the Senate.
Forthwith, citing various cases, Mr. President, Your Honors, means within a reasonable time, which may be longer or shorter period according to the circumstances of a particular case. It means it is elastic in nature and varies with every case.
At this point, let us talk to retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Adolfo Azcuna, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, regarding the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Okay, Justice, there's this whole debate, as we all know, it has now become national over the word that you wrote, forthwith. My question is, why did you not use the word immediately? Why the word forthwith? At pareho lang bang meaning nun? Kayo po nagsabi na agad-agad ang ibig sabihin nito sa ating national language.
Alam mo, yung forthwith na yan, is a flexible term. Ang first meaning is agad-agad or immediate, but there are secondary meanings of the term, and the secondary meaning is without unreasonable delay. So depende sa circumstances. In this particular case, personally, I believe that there has been no unreasonable delay. There has been a delay, but within reason. At the test there is whether or not the delay prevents a fair trial. In this case, I don't think the delay has prevented a fair trial for the Vice President. So okay lang so far. There has been no violation of the provision of the Constitution on forthwith.
Again, so I did not get that clearly. There has been or there has been no violation
There
for
has
you?
been, so far, as I see it, no violation.
No violation. So you see that the Senate President has been reasonable with how he has framed this timeline to come after the elections and to provide time for the prosecution and the defense to present their sides. Agree po kayo dun sa kanyang timeline na nilatag?
Yung timeline ni Francis Tolentino, Senator Tolentino, ay medyo masikip. It might not be sufficient because that is premised on his assumption that the 20th Congress cannot continue the process of the impeachment, which is contrary to my belief. I believe that this can be carried over to the 20th Congress as long as the jurisdiction has attached already in the 19th Congress.
Pero yung timeline po ni Senate President Cheese Escudero, sabi po niya ay ito nga ay nakikita niyang maaaring tumawid. Tama po, pareho po kayo. At yun nga po ay pagdating ng June 11, magko-convene lamang, I think until June 30. Tapos, by the next Congress pa po magsisimula itong trial na ito. Kasi sabi niya, mahabaan yung diskusyon. agree po kayo dun sa kanya na pinushback niya
Yes.
mula dun sa before the elections because it is highly political or politically charged context going around this impeachment, that it was wiser to delay the start of the whole process.
Agreed ako doon sa kanyang time frame na they will convene on the 11th and then they will read the articles and serve a copy on the respondent. And then maybe they can start the trial, but if they cannot finish it, they'll pass it on to the next Congress, the Senate to the next Congress. That is, to me, a feasible and lawful, legal, complying timetable.
Is that the reason why you used the word forthwith to provide some wiggle room for circumstances like these?
Yes, and forthwith naman is regarding the start of the process. And so, as long as it's started within a reasonable time and it's continued, if it's not finished in the 19th Congress, it can be continued in the 20th Congress.
And for his decision, actually, nag-cite po ng President, itong si Senate President Escudero kahapon, yung nangyari kay Chief Justice Corona, na nag-resume sila after Christmas break at wala naman daw naging problema. Dito kay Chief Justice Hilario Davide, na sinabi niya, no, a lot of civil society groups were against this and the Senate said busy sila sa budget. I mean, ano po yung bounds no? When it comes to, because if you take a look at the resumption of the plenary, kung titingnan niyo po yung nangyari in the past days, inuna po nila yung maraming legislation, no? Hindi po nila tinakal kaagad pagka-resume ng mga hearings na yan. So, it would seem that there has been, parang no sense of urgency in the Senate to put this on the table.
I think priority given to the legislative matters is reasonable because those matters lapse with the Congress. They cannot be carried over to the 20th Congress. So inuna nila yon dahil maglalapse yun eh. On the other hand, the trial of the impeachment will not lapse. It can be continued in the next Congress. So it can wait in a way. As against the also urgent matters that would otherwise lapse. So to me, it was a reasonable delay, as long as a fair trial is still possible, and it is.
Okay. The Senate President has taken his oath yesterday. Today, the Senate jurors will take their oath. After that, is the impeachment court already convened? What should happen after that?
Yes, after that, they should convene as an impeachment court, and the articles should be read to them, and they should assign it to the Rules Committee and order that a copy be served on the respondent. That is, to me, what will trigger the jurisdiction of the impeachment court.
So all of that must happen before the 19th Congress adjourns. Pero
Correct.
ito nga po yung
Before it
pinag-uusapan
bows
din
out.
po.
Its adjournment doesn't mean it ends. It can
Okay.
adjourn but still exists. It ceases to exist June 30. I know.
Okay, so even pagkatapos ng sine die ng 13,
Yes,
maaari pa silang magkaroon ng pagdinig. Pero meron din pong debate, no, kung kanino po i-refer itong articles of impeachment, kung sa Committee on Rules or sa Committee on Justice. Sabi po ni Senate President Escudero, ang paniniwala niya ay sa Committee on Justice. Ano po ba yung sinasabi ng konstitusyon?
Wala pong sinasabi dyan ang Constitution. Nakalagay lang that the Congress can adopt its own rules to implement the impeachment procedure. under Article 11. So, nasa kanila po yon kung saan nila i-refer.
Okay. Pero ito po yung sa pagkatapos nung pag oath taking po nila sa committee in rules po talaga dapat.
Doon yata sa rules nila, ganun ang
Okay.
paraan.
Okay.
Opo.
Or pag-usapan naman po natin yung pagtawid papunta po sa 20th Congress. Si Senator Tolentino said, "Show me a provision in the 1987 Constitution that would point to the words carry over." Wala daw po sa Constitution po natin. And sabi niya, he cited the Jefferson Manual to defend his position that impeachment cannot carry over to the next Congress. Do you have an idea of this so-called Jefferson Manual, and what is that interpretation all about?
Okay, the word that to me is in the Constitution that indicates that it can cross over to the next Congress is proceed. The trial shall proceed, by the Senate shall proceed. So if it proceeds, it will survive the change of Congress. Otherwise, it will not proceed. So the word proceed is what, to me, authorizes a crossover.
And that word is the word after forthwith. Am I referring to the right
Yes.
provision?
Shall forthwith proceed. Yes, that means trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. So it will start and it should be finished. It cannot be finished if it lapses with the Congress. So it doesn't lapse.
Okay. Pero kung titingnan po natin, no, yung mag-oath po today will be a different set of senators in the 20th Congress. So today, do we expect only 12 senators to take their oath? Paano po yun? Paano magbabago yun? Pati rin po sa prosecution, magbabago rin po ang miyembro ng Kongreso that will discuss this. So, if this is convened now, won't it be complicated because of the members in the prosecution and also in the jurors?
The change in the membership of the court does not affect the jurisdiction of the court. Similarly, a change in the person of the judge doesn't affect the jurisdiction of the court. So there may be changes in the personalities of the members of the court, but the jurisdiction that is attached to the court continues.
But do you expect this to be challenged in the Supreme Court? Because giving the good Senator Tolentino the benefit of the doubt, it seems that it could be challenged in the Supreme Court. Where do you see this going?
Yes, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter on the interpretation of the Constitution. So all this can be challenged in the Supreme Court at the proper time.
What could be challenged at the Supreme Court? Let's say the impeachment trial heads to a verdict. Could the decision also be challenged, or is it nullified to begin with if the Supreme Court rules that hindi pwedeng tumawid?
What could be challenged is the crossover. It could be contended. The matter of the impeachment cannot be carried over and it lapses with the 19th Congress. That's one issue that can be raised in the Supreme Court. The other issue has to do with the fact that there were 3 previous complaints filed against the Vice President, and it wasn't acted upon by the House. What the House did was adopt its own complaint. And so it can be contended, and there's a pending case in the Supreme Court contending that this is the 4th complaint, and it violates the prohibition that says that not more than 1 complaint can be filed against an official for within a year.
Pag ganun po, ibig sabihin po, mananalify po if the Supreme Court does say that it is not constitutional to have this crossover, mananalify po kung kahit anumang result.
It depends on the court. The court can nullify the whole thing,
Okay.
or it can provide guidance on how to proceed.
Oo. But what are the bounds of the Supreme Court when it comes to deciding? Because they are also equal chambers. Hanggang saan lang po pwedeng magdesisyon yung Korte Suprema? There have been instances, Senate President Escudero has mentioned before, the Supreme Court ruled hindi sinunod ng Senate yung desisyon ng Supreme Court, and then there is a danger of having a constitutional crisis. So, hanggang saan lang po yung bounds ng kanilang jurisdiction?
The jurisdiction of the Supreme Court has to do with its power to determine in a certiorari case whether there has been a grave abuse of discretion on the part of any organ or agency of government. That would include the Senate. As long as there is a violation of the Constitution, the Supreme Court can declare that act invalid. And that is the provision of the Constitution now. That was not so in the previous Constitution. This is something new.
And you also mentioned in your social media posts that a dismissal of the impeachment would be a grave violation of the Constitution. Can you expound a little bit on that? If they head towards that direction and push for the dismissal or a de facto dismissal that has been thrown around?
What I said was if they accept the articles but they do not proceed to trial, or they dismiss it without trial, that would be a violation, a grave violation of the Constitution, because the Constitution clearly says that after receiving the articles, trial shall proceed forthwith. So dismissing it means wala nang trial. They are required to hold trial. It's not discretionary. It says shall. Trial shall. That means obligatory. Shall proceed.
Okay, so in your opinion, just to wrap things up, has the Senate President done his job well, given the way things are happening?
Yes, I think so far I'm happy with the way it's been going, because it looks like they're going to hold the trial, whether in the 19th or 20th Congress, doesn't matter.
All right, thank you so much for explaining to us. We have the writer of Article 11 himself joining us today. Retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Adolfo Azcuna, thank you so much for your insights. Meanwhile, a House prosecutor says the proposed 19-day timeline is not enough for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Here is the report.
Congressmen and House prosecutors are not in favor of the proposed 19-day timeline to conclude the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Senate Majority Leader Francis Tolentino has suggested starting the impeachment proceedings on June 11, with a decision by June 30, just in time for the end of the 19th Congress. But for House Prosecutor and One Rider Party List Representative Rog Gutierrez, 2 days won't be enough to present all the necessary evidence, nor is it acceptable to compress the 7 articles of impeachment.
Personally, I don't think it would be possible on our part to just consolidate it into 2 articles. That would be a betrayal of the full articles of impeachment that we have filed. Parang 2 araw lang yung nabibigay for presentation of evidence. And if you're going to divide it into 7 articles, that really will not be enough time. We're not ready yet to say how much time we need, but definitely 2 days will not be enough.
Gutierrez emphasized there's no need to rush the process, adding that the trial can continue into the 20th Congress if needed. That position is also shared by lawmakers who earlier endorsed the impeachment complaints against Duterte.
Yung impeachment trial nga, ang sinabi natin, hindi siya bound by the legislative calendar. We are still standing on that, na hindi siya dapat magpa-tali doon sa usapin na hanggang June 30 lang. We think kung hanggang June 30 siya, bibigyan mo lang ng isang araw, hindi siya enough, hindi siya sapat. At dapat masatisfy natin yung tanong ng mga taong bayan kaugnay dito sa impeachment.
Alam natin pag minadali, kulang yung oras sa dami ng mga ebidensya na ipipresenta. So again, sana ma-realize nila na it's always the Constitution over personal ambition. Yun ang mahalaga. Hindi ito parang si Carlos Yulo na sa kaka-gymnastics nila, mental gymnastics, kakatambling at kakasplit, mapapalisot nila yung kanilang poon.
Meanwhile, National Unity Party President and Councilor 2nd District Representative El Rey Villafuerte does not believe that Deputy Speaker Duke Frasco's refusal to sign the manifesto of support for Speaker Martin Romualdez has anything to do with the impeachment. Villafuerte suggested Frasco may be pressuring the Speaker to retain his post as Deputy Speaker in the next Congress.
So we were quite surprised because as Deputy Speaker, if you're speaking of unity, the first thing that Duke should have done was raise the issue among party members, party leaders. Diba? Normally, you should have a dialogue. And wala namang dialogue, wala naman siyang concern. And we just, and on my statement, he was the one grandstanding by issuing statements in the media prior to consultation with the prior party leaders. And the suspect of the members is that he's bargaining, arm-twisting the speaker to retain him as deputy speaker.
Villafuerte maintains that the NUP remains firmly behind Romualdez.
The senator judges are set to take their oaths today. That's June 10 at 4 p.m. Once the oaths are completed, the Senate is officially constituted as an impeachment court. However, they will not start the trial proceedings yet, which begins tomorrow, June 11. The Senate Committee on Rules is set to work on the logistics and scheduling, among other matters. Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Noah. Here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Bataan 1st District Representative Geraldine Roman has filed a bill seeking to recognize the Digital Media Standards Coalition as an independent authority on fact-checking and digital ethics. The DMSC is a registered group composed of content creators, PR and ad firms, fact-checkers, media outlets, academics, and civil society representatives. If passed, the bill would require social media platforms to maintain a local office, follow DMSC directives, and consult the group on major content disputes. Platforms would also need to provide data for technical audits to ensure accountability and transparency online. To discuss that and more, we have on the show Congresswoman Geraldine Roman joining us here on Morning Matters. Good morning. Welcome to our program.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning to our viewers.
Before we go to that piece of legislation, let's first, I want you to weigh in on what's happening at the Senate. Senate President Jesus Escudero had a long explanation for why this has been delayed, the impeachment trial, that is. And sabi niya, kung sa Kongreso nga inupuan ng iilang buwan bago naipasa sa kanila, bakit minamadali ang Senado?
I think we have to be proactive at this point. If we look back in hindsight, maghahanap pa tayo kung sino sisisihin. I mean, that's not being proactive. We should focus on what we could do. And besides, if you just look back and blame Congress for the delays, so bakit nga ginagaya kami? He could do better, actually. So, naririyan yan, what we have is what we have. At least last night, there were positive developments. He was sworn in as the presiding officer, and today we expect the rest of the senators to be sworn in as senator judges, and then tomorrow for the impeachment trial to continue.
You were one of the signatories in that impeachment transmitted to the Senate. It seems that the Senate is pushed to a wall now, given that the limited time frame. Discussing it now would not give anybody a sense of fairness,
Yes.
only just following the rule of law, making sure that this gets done. But
Yeah.
if it's transmitted to the 20th Congress, it could be nullified from the very start if the Supreme Court rules that it could not be carried over. So parang kung titingnan mo, talirin talaga yung kamay ng Senado at this point, ano?
Alam mo, ang paniniwala ko, dapat siguro ang Senado nag-operate on a worst-case scenario situation. I think it's confident that the impeachment trial could be carried over to the 20th Congress. But what if hindi talaga? Expect na talaga ang defense will question it before the Supreme Court. That at i-claim nila, hindi talaga pwedeng i-carry over. So tayo, we're acting, the Senate is deciding on the presumption that yes, it could be carried over. And I'm also of that belief. Kaya nga lang, nobody will stop the defense from filing a case before the Supreme Court. And no, it's a big possibility that the Supreme Court might rule against the carrying over of this impeachment trial, although there is jurisprudence, etc., etc.
And of course, there is public furor.
Of course, yes.
And pressure.
Yes, all
right?
eyes are on the Senate right now.
Okay, let's go to other matters. Your term is ending in a
Yes.
few days.
Yes.
But your brother is taking over your seat, 1st District of Bataan.
Yes. He ran unopposed and patuloy ang paglilingkod ng...
Where do you find yourself now?
Well, I'm open to all possibilities. Definitely, I'll be very active in my own district and continue with my advocacies. One of which, of course, is now it's Pride Month, equal rights, and also gender equality. Nariyan din, I was in touch the other day with our agrarian reform beneficiaries. Today, I think the DAR is celebrating its anniversary. So patuloy din ang aking paglaban para sa karapatan ng mga agrarian reform beneficiaries. And of course, our crusade to fight against fake news.
So yan yung tatlong pinaglaban mo nung kayo ay nasa Kongreso.
Yes.
So ano yung what would you cite as your major achievements?
Well,
in 9 years.
9 years, yes. I guess visibility would be one. It's not, of course, everybody knows what the SOGI Equality Bill is. It's simply an anti-discrimination bill based on sexual orientation and gender identity and expression, which seeks to protect all Filipinos from discrimination at the workplace, in learning institutions, in the delivery of government services. Naging madali ipasa sa House of Representatives, pero talagang ang stumbling block is at the Senate.
So it's still there?
It's still there. What's new, right?
At what stage is it in now, the SOGI bill?
Well, in the House, because we have been very busy, with other pressing issues, I'm not justifying, the status of the SOGI Equality Bill. Medyo naantala siya dun sa plenary, dun sa period of interpellation.
Sa House?
Sa House, yeah. We reached
Kala ko na pasa na in third.
Well, in the
final
17th
reading.
Congress, it was passed unanimously. In the 18th Congress, it was sidelined because of the pandemic. In the 19th Congress, nakaabot kami hanggang doon sa sponsorship speech, but it was not allowed to be discussed in the second reading.
Okay, so ganun yung pag hindi, even if it's passed by previous Congresses, but it does not become law, you have to go back to square one.
Back to square one.
Kaya paulit-ulit
Oo,
tayo.
paulit-ulit tayo. And it's been 25 years.
So the challenge is to get it passed in 3 years.
Yes, and that's the challenge. And of course, I think it's easier sa House of Representatives kasi kaming mga congressmen, we're in direct engagement with our constituents. And that, yes, we deal with members of the LGBTQ plus community. And we are fully aware and sensitive to their situations of discrimination. So we respond accordingly. I don't know with the Senate. I don't know what's keeping them and, holding them back.
Okay, of course, there have been many misconceptions floated around surrounding this SOGI bill, one of which is that it is anti-religious freedom, that it does not recognize the beliefs of certain religions, that for one, homosexuality is a sin, that it is not acceptable, etc., etc. Just to be clear,
Fake news yun, Gretchen.
Help us again, as you end your term, help us again to understand what the SOGI bill is all about. What does it say? What does it provide? In simple terms.
Well, to give you an example, people often use religion as an excuse to discriminate. Nothing in this bill will actually stop you from believing that gay people or lesbians or transgender people are sinners, like we all are. But what this bill seeks is to guarantee that our constitutional right to work, to study, to receive services from the government is not deprived hindi pinagkakait dun sa mga members ng LGBT community kasi Pilipino rin sila. As we often say, our rights and where the rights of others begin. And besides, really, you cannot use religion to justify discrimination. Simple as that.
Isa sa mga nabanggit na kwento sa akin ng mga kaibigan ko ay yung kapag may nagkasakit na partner, parang hindi nire-recognize yung partner niya as the formal representative.
As a family member, okay? Kasi under present laws, if there are major medical decisions, it's usually the spouse who can decide kung i-continue sa life support yung isang pasyente or not. But in the case of same-sex couples, wala siyang karapatan, except in the city, Quezon City. Doon sa Quezon City, meron yung healthcare advantage yung mga same-sex couples. They can decide for their partners dun sa mga medical decisions na yun. May ordinance. In fact, Quezon City, kudos to Mayor Joy Belmonte, is one of the first LGUs in our country to approve an anti-discrimination ordinance. Yun na nga ang good news, Gretchen. Kahit wala namang national law, as we speak, padagdag ng padagdag ang mga LGU na
Which
nagpapasa
cities have
marami. Meron sa San Fernando City, in La Union, in the north, and even to the south, meron Cebu City, Mandaue City, even Davao City have their own anti-discrimination ordinances.
Pero sa ngayon, pagkuha ng mga benefits from government institutions, is there difficulty in that also?
Well, for example, during the pandemic, there were same-sex couples who applied for ayuda, and they were turned down. Sinasabi sa kanila, hindi naman kayo family. Under our laws, you're not considered a family, and therefore you're not entitled to ayuda. As if hindi naman kailangan kumain ng mga tao who are in a same-sex relationship. And during the pandemic, that was very difficult.
I do remember there was an incident that erupted over an LGBTQ member going inside the restroom of a female.
Yes.
Tapos nagkaroon ng debate doon kung sino yung inaapi, kung yung babae ba o yung LGBTQ na nagvi-video. Your thoughts on that? I mean, will this bill mandate institutions to have a special place for the LGBTQ or to allow the LGBTQ to enter whichever bathroom they wish? Paano yung ganon?
Actually, this bill will encourage institutions or business establishments to have a gender-neutral bathroom. So nothing in this bill will actually require institutions or to allow transgender women to use women's bathrooms, but it does encourage the construction of gender-neutral bathrooms. And nangyayari naman yan sa mga maraming, like say, mga multinational companies or mga international chains of restaurants. Meron ng mga gender-neutral bathrooms.
Oo. Pero sa ganon, I mean, this bill protects that right to choose whichever bathroom.
This bill will allow you, if you are a transgender person, to relieve yourself. To relieve yourself and to attend to your basic biological need in a space where you feel safe.
Okay. Yeah, that's why it's also safe spaces, no. Okay, but when it comes to sa religion naman, kasi meron iba they feel strongly about their beliefs against homosexuality. What if they are lecturing somebody on their gender? Paano yung ganon? I mean, pwede mo bang i-invoke yung if this passes into law, that I feel discriminated upon as an LGBTQ member by somebody from this religion who tells me what I'm doing is wrong? Paano yung ganon?
Under this bill, religious speech, that is, the teaching of one's religious beliefs in a religious context, let's say in a church or in a prayer meeting, will not be typified as criminal. What will be typified as criminal is promoting hate speech na sasabihin mo, dapat stone to death natin ang mga bakla o mga lesbians o mga transgender people. That's a different matter. That is already typified as hate speech. But, this bill is fully respectful of our basic constitutional right to freedom of speech.
But how about in institutions? I mean, how will this be taught? How will gender be taught? Is there anything in the bill that says something about that?
No. Actually, in denominational schools, they are free to teach kung ano yung kanilang religious beliefs, and they will not be penalized for it. But in public schools, which theoretically should be non-denominational, respect for people of all genders
should be taught.
Is going to be taught. In fact, it is already being taught.
Okay. Actually, gusto ko lang ilatag yun, kasi in practical situations, I mean, ito yung mga issue na lumalabas. I mean, for people to understand why it's important to have one and where are the lines? I mean, the sensitive lines that we're talking about. So, I mean, the Philippines is one of the most progressive when it comes to that, right? We have a huge LGBTQ community. But realistically, what does it take? In your experience already in Congress, realistically, what would it take to have this passed into law?
Well, to be honest, we need more lobbying. And I think, more and more civil society organizations are participating. And of course, we need more visibility, positive visibility. And I think I also contributed to that when I became the first transgender woman to hold a seat in Congress. And of course, I think we also need a generational turnover in Congress. Natutuwa ako, mas marami mga congressmen and congresswomen na bata ang pumapasok. And with them, more progressive ideas. They've seen how things work in other countries, whether in Europe or United States. And they see na kahit merong equality dun sa mga bansang yon, hindi naman bumabagsak ang langit sa mga bansang yon. What you have is an inclusive, what they have in these countries are inclusive societies where everyone is respected, regardless of what their soji is.
I wanted to talk about your recent bill, the Digital Accountability and Services Act, What does it talk about? How does it stifle disinformation?
Well, you know what? Disinformation is a problem in our country. Disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation. These are the different forms of fake news because fake news erode public trust in our government institutions, in the system itself, in the rule of law. It polarizes our country and it also affects our ability to react to national emergencies and situations. And fake news will also shape the mindset of future generations. Ganyan yang kaseryoso. Imagine future generations of Filipinos basing their decisions on fake news. Now, I filed this bill because I thought that this is the bill that would strike the balance between respecting our basic constitutional right to freedom of expression. I'm a journalist myself, Gretchen, and I believe in this basic right to free speech. But we cannot ask the government to actually directly control what is content creation. That would be unconstitutional. So this bill actually involves civil society organization. In this case, the
You
stakeholders
put the power in
themselves.
their hands.
Yes, parang kapisanan ng mga broadcasters sa Pilipinas. So we have the Digital Media Standards Council formed by association and groups of content creators, digital advertisers, members of the academe, representatives from the DICT, the PNP, and so on and so forth, all relevant stakeholders. And what they will do is actually to fact check based on a mutually agreed upon set of code of standards, code of ethics and standards. They'll do the fact checking and they will submit the results to the social media platforms. This is where government regulation comes in. We require the social media platforms para maunawaan ng ating mga viewers, yung Facebook, yung Instagram, yung X, ang Twitter, ang TikTok. First, number one, to establish a legal entity in our country. That's the only way we can make them follow our laws. Number two, to keep a registry of social media accounts. Para lahat ng accounts, merong totoong tao. At pwede silang ma-hold accountable. Number three, we require the social media platforms to adhere to the findings of the Digital Media Standards Council.
Isn't it complicated naman to have how could you ensure that the proper accounting of history will be upheld? Paano kung iba-ibang punto de vista mo, punto de vista ka sa nangyari? How can we share a common set of facts?
Well, we practice what we call journalistic rigor. We actually, we do fact-checking. We find out if there is actually proof and evidence and basis for our opinions. I want to make it clear, fact checker, which is the Digital Media Standards Council with its own code of ethics and standards, na sila na rin ang nag-form, ano? And then you have regulation over social media platforms, not over social media content creation. Ang hirap kasi pag meron kang isang ahensya na watchdog, how can it have credibility? Laging pagbibintangan yan being biased or being prejudiced.
Totoo. Pero kailangan lang siguro pakaingatan din kung sino yung magiging membro niyan. Kasi kahit sa MTRCB naman,
ayoko ng set.
Well, we hope your brother carries over the work that you've started in your 9 years to get that Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. 1 in 5 pregnant Filipino women is at risk of delivering a malnourished baby due to poor nutrition. That's based on a 2023 National Nutrition Survey released by the DOST Food and Nutrition Research Institute. The report found that 19.1% of pregnant respondents had a low body mass index, up from 16.1% in 2021. Among those affected, 20.9% were aged 20 and above, while 19% were adolescents. The DOST FNRI warned that babies born to malnourished mothers are more vulnerable to diseases. While most pregnant women monitor their health and take supplements, many miss out on full prenatal care. Only 22.7% followed the WHO recommended 8 doctor visits during pregnancy. The use of deworming medicine remains low at just 3%, despite its proven benefits in lowering infant mortality. To talk about that and more, we have DOST FNRI Science Research Specialist Frances Paula Arias. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yes, Ms. Gretchen. Good morning, and to our televiewers.
Okay. Of course, itong problema na ito na pinag-uusapan natin, iba ito dun sa malnutrition ng baby sa kanilang first 1,000 days na isa ring malaking problema. Pero ano ang kaibahan ng epekto kapag yung nanay naman ang malnourished? What are the health risks for both the mother and the baby?
Yes, Miss Gretchen. So when we talk about nutritionally at-risk pregnant women, technically speaking, these are the pregnant women po classified as those who did not reach their recommended pregnancy weight gain per the trimester of their pregnancy. So when a pregnant mother is described as nutritionally at risk, it means she has one or more factors that may have compromised her nutritional status, thus resulting to negative effects on her health and the development of her baby. So, being a nutritionally at-risk pregnant, pwede po ito mag-result to low birth weight, premature birth, the different maternal complications, and the poor breastfeeding outcomes.
When you say low body mass index, what does that mean? And what does that constitute?
Yes. So, for the pregnant women, hindi po natin ginagamit yung body mass index or yung BMI for the normal adult. So, what we actually follow is yun pong recommended pregnancy weight gain. So, for example, for a pregnant mother starting with a normal weight prior to pregnancy, recommended po na at least 1 to 2 kilos po yung i-gain niya for the first trimester. Then, for the succeeding 2 trimesters po, at least 0.5 kilos.
Is this
factors that we should consider when taking care of the health of a pregnant woman? So, yung pag-consume po ng foods na adequate and balanced, with focus po on the iron-rich food items. Yun po talaga yung important, as well as yung pagkakaroon po ng regular na prenatal check-ups.
Pag sinabi po natin iron-rich food, ano po mga pagkain yun?
Yes. So when we say iron-rich foods, these are mostly the animal-based products. So we have our meat, fish, and poultry, our egg, and then our green leafy vegetables.
What is the solution here if a family really cannot afford to buy nutritious meals?
Yes, definitely. So, Ms. Gretchen, we would notice that among food insecure families, they gear towards buying or getting food items that are more energy dense, and these energy dense foods tends to be the least micronutrient rich. So, kapag ang ating food sources is ganito, definitely these are deficient po sa essential micronutrients na kailangan po ng ating pregnant women. So, we can only emphasize kung ano po yung importance ng pag-take po ng iron-rich food items. So, Hindi naman po ibig sabihin na pag sinabi nating iron rich, nutritious is expensive na kasi we can easily get them in our markets. All we need is to have proper choice. Andyan po yung ating mga green leafy vegetables. So yung egg po natin, if hindi po natin masyadong maka-afford ng meat, we can make use or purchase po yung eggs, then yung ating mga fish. So these are the other alternatives po na abot kaya po sa ating families from the lower income.
The use of deworming medicine during the pregnancy period is very low. Well, why do you think is this the case, and how can awareness be improved?
Yes, definitely po. No? One of the reasons, actually, it's the top reason po why deworming po is not frequently availed by our pregnant mother is the lack of awareness po na necessary po pala yung pagde-deworm among pregnant because when there's parasitic infections po, no, this could lead to anemia since yung ating pong parasites, aside from the fact that they can interfere with the nutrient absorption, yung mga types of parasite like hookworm, pwede po siya mag-cause ng endogenous bleeding leading to anemia. So as health practitioners po, I think we should make a move, educate others, educate the women in the community na pati po yung deworming is an important service po for pregnant mothers.
Ilan pong beses dapat mag-deworm during the pregnancy?
For deworming po, this is advised at least once after the first trimester po. So, dapat po pag nag-deworm po ang isang pregnant women, by the second trimester na po for pregnancy or at the 4th month at least.
So, is this also related to lack of awareness? How about the expense tied to the deworming medicine?
The deworming service po actually is given for free po sa atin pong mga healthcare facilities such as sa mga barangay health centers. So, deworming po kasi is most crucial communities na may problems po, for example, on sanitation, meron pong problems on the access to need to do po is to provide that service to the communities where
Looks like we're getting her choppy there, but this is obviously a problem that needs to be discussed as the rates remain high in malnutrition amongst mothers and babies. In the meantime, thank you so much for your time, DOST FNRI Science Research Specialist Francis Paula Arias. In weather, the low-pressure area near Luzon has developed into a tropical depression. The weather disturbance, though, is now outside the Philippine area of responsibility. It was last spotted some 535 kilometers west of Iba, Zambales. It has no direct impact on any part of the country. The southwest monsoon, or habagat, however, will continue to trigger occasional rains. Affected areas include Zambales, Bataan, Occidental Mindoro, and Palawan. Metro Manila and other areas may also expect scattered rains due to the habagat or localized thunderstorms. So if you're heading out for your day and you see clear skies, don't get confused. Bring an umbrella because it might rain later in the afternoon. Better keep yourself dry. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. So go ahead and make the day matter. I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.